My experience with self-hatred began when I was 15.
Never mind that I was the it girl. As per usual, I wanted more. I wanted to be smarter, prettier, and yes, thinner, so I started starving myself every day. One bowl of Air Pop popcorn, an apple, and Diet Coke. I lived on that for a year, until I stopped eating altogether. Always being something of a control freak, I began judging other people by how much and what kind of food they ate.
I felt superior, unstoppable. After your body doesn't get the proper nutrition, it starts to shut down in some ways. For one thing, your stomach stops growling, your taste buds wither away, and your every waking thought is about food. What you want to eat, what you deny yourself eating, and of course, how many calories it has. Later in life, this control issue would return as OCD, but back then it was all about being skinny. At my lowest, I was 89 pounds.
Eventually, a friend of mine said she would tell my parents I was starving myself if I didn't go home and confess. How my parents didn't notice is another story. They were too busy working and raising 5 kids, and I was always a good actress.
Anorexia for me lasted only 2 years. For some, it's a lifelong struggle. Nowadays, I overeat. There's rarely a balance. The weight gain started from my medication, but then turned worse by eating my emotions. I have gained over 70 pounds in 2 years. That also includes the 50 I lost in jail. Considering that, I basically gained as much as I used to weigh in high school. What is with this obsession with food? Well, like drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, sex, stealing, and OCD, it's all about control. And also, lack thereof. Constantly finding new and interesting ways of battling with control. The control freak can basically be boiled down to a person suffering from a generalized anxiety. What can't be controlled becomes substituted by what we can. I learned to eat my emotions in jail, and it's been a struggle ever since. I also have OCD.
I like to do things like repeated checking to see if the door is locked, car lights are off, and the oven fan lights are off.
I have to remind myself that control is, to the greatest extent, only an illusion. Smoking, for example. I've quit so many times that it's become a joke that maybe I'm addicted to the quitting and not the smoking.
And then when smoking, I have a habit of relighting the already lit cigarette.
I suppose behind the control freak there is the fear of the unknown. Especially in a time of transition or when life is in flux, an already insane person resorts to compulsive behaviors in order to distract from the reality that change is inevitable. Pacing is another thing. I'm a hardcore pacer. OCD is really a symptom of my psychosis as much as anorexia was a symptom of buying into perfectionism. But they are very similar in many ways. And behind both of them is the deep-seated preoccupation with suicide. I have just one attempt on record. My roommate was out for the evening and I was left to my own devices, downing a bunch of pills with Jack Daniels like the truly incompetent suicide victim. I was such a loser, I couldn't even kill myself properly. I was in the middle of a divorce that was also brought on by my mental illness, and I couldn't see a way out.
And then I found it.
Of course, I vomited the whole ordeal out. My roommate came home, everything was fine. Another compulsive tendency of mine was to steal. I'd steal from retailers, friends, family, even perfect strangers. I stole money, clothes, makeup, and of course, drugs. Karma has a way of showing up though, and it didn't take long for me to figure out that my thieving problem was actually making my life worse. I became a grifter. At this point, I was moving every 6 months on average, and the gypsy lifestyle lends itself toward immorality. There were no consequences for my action as long as I was on the move. It worked for a while until it didn't.
I wrote this book. It's a collection of very controversial poems, and I highly recommend it as a bathroom read.
Eventually, I had to come to terms with my mental illness. My marriage was the first casualty. The early stages of delusional thinking were there. I not only didn't ignore them though, but I dove in headfirst. My lost grip on reality robbed me of a perfectly perfect life, with a house, a white picket fence, with a husband, a great job, and a budding writing career that would turn my life inside out. Writing has always been a form of escape for me. It's also dragged me through some pretty unstable times. It's contributed to my mental illness, or I thought the mental illness forced me to write. Now I know what all artists have known for centuries. There is madness in it because there is a little bit of everything in it. And madness surely goes hand in hand with great adventures and most really great writing. I've had a bunch of both. Here's a little poem I wrote called Maze. Said it once, I said it twice, wouldn't make the same mistake again. Touching, filling every need, hate your touch because it wounds me, even more I hate the need. But say this once, say it again, lost it before I hit begin, driving all my innocence farthest away. Where do you run when all you've done is learn how not to stay? Losing all direction with no place left to turn, trade a quick fix suicide for a slow and steady burn. No one gifted half his conscience could throw it down the drain. Giving into darkness is like masturbating pain. Comfort in this nomad life, some promissory note, always some shortcut to out the lump inside your throat. This lump inside is my big dream, is your sweet whisper inside my scream. This lump is nothing, it's all a joke. Just my heart, strung out and choked.
For more great poems, just go to barnesandnoble.com and search for Existential Thoughts on Going Mad.
I wish I could tell you that my control freakness was under control, but it's not. I overeat, check doorknobs, and bite my nails. Instead of smoking, now I vape. But because I know my strengths as well as my limitations, I've built a support system to help me cope. Despite my long list of shortcomings and challenges, I am learning to love myself. It's been a rocky road, but anyone who can continue to love those who have hurt me, anyone who knows the depth of forgiveness as deeply as I do, deserves to extend that same love and forgiveness to myself. And in times such as these, we could all use some love and forgiveness.
Here are a list of resources. If you or anyone you know is struggling with anorexia, OCD, or suicidal tendencies, please do something. Thank you.